Welcome to the debate. We are diving deep into the analysis of the College Football League's Year 3 post-mortem, specifically focusing on the hierarchy established by one coach's overwhelming success. The central question emerging from this material is not just about competence, but about historical stature. Does Coach Bam's 2-year consecutive national championship reign and his sustained stranglehold on the league definitively establish him as the greatest coach in the College Football League's history?
Right, and that is the natural conclusion for many, given the trophies. But I think we have to apply a different lens here. We have to distinguish between the most successful coach of this specific 2-year cycle, which Bam certainly is, and the greatest coach in history, which, demands a critical examination of the circumstances and the true caliber of the opposition he faced. I'm coming at it from a position of, let's say, intellectual skepticism regarding these historical labels.
I just think that approach fundamentally undervalues objective results. My position is that Bam's dominance is, it's undeniable proof of his superiority, full stop. The source material couldn't be clearer. He's won his second straight national championship with TCU after the restart and remains the only user to win a national championship this entire cycle. I mean, when the league post-mortem states that a whole league has been actively trying to stop him and has failed, that makes him unstoppable. This isn't luck. This is sustained clinical success. It proves he is the most effective and greatest coach, separating him from every competitor based purely on the ultimate unforgiving metric, winning the championship when it matters most.
Okay, Bam holds the hardware. I won't dispute that. But the label of best ever requires contextualizing his dominance against the highly specific flaws and, frankly, the commitment issues of his rivals. If Bam is truly the greatest, he must beat the best when they are fully engaged. We have coaches who demonstrated, significant lapses in focus. I mean, look at Coach Steezy at Georgia Tech, who navigated a playoff run while coaching remotely via a FaceTime call from Turkey, and not for a holiday, according to the report. Or Coach Easy, who delivered a conference championship and a Heisman at California, but then openly punted on his last 3 games to focus on recruiting for year 4. This strategic deprioritization fundamentally alters the competitive landscape. I argue Bam is the most committed coach operating against a highly talented yet frequently distracted and strategically flawed field.
Consistency and focus are cornerstones of coaching superiority. And we can circle back to that organizational genius, but let's first address the most potent argument against your perspective: the repeatable failure of those who should be challenging him. I'm talking about the case of Coach Trill at Minnesota.
That's a compelling and probably painful comparison for the league. So what is the analytical meaning of that failure?
Well, the material likens Trill to the white James Franklin, and that is damning because it defines a structural flaw in his coaching philosophy. Trill has all the tools, elite recruiting, a knack for winning 10-plus regular season games, yet he consistently falls short against the best of the best. He is brilliant at setting the table, but when the margin for error shrinks to 0 in those top 10 matchups, his scheme just seems to buckle under pressure. This repeated inability to get over the hump highlights the chasm between competence, which Trill clearly possesses, and true championship-level greatness, which Bam has locked down. Bam doesn't just win, he wins precisely when others, like Trill, prove conceptually incapable of reaching that next echelon.
See, I think that misses the point entirely. And it conflates Trill's specific, predictable failure with Bam's supposed strategic genius. Trill's flaw, whether it's a philosophical adherence to a pre-snap defensive scheme that can't adapt, or just poor clock management, it's a known quantity. Bam is the one benefiting from that systemic failure. Trill's repeated shortcomings provide Bam and the other top contenders with an easier path, knowing that a strong regular season team will probably just collapse when the pressure hits. It confirms that Trill needs to solve his issues, or Minnesota needs to go in another direction. But it doesn't automatically elevate Bam to the pedestal of greatest ever. It only proves he's the best at navigating a league where the biggest threats often eliminate themselves.
But if the measure of the best coach is the one who consistently executes a winning game plan under maximum pressure, which the championship requires, then Bam is the only one demonstrating that attribute. He capitalizes on the pressure that exposes the flaws of others.
And that brings us back aggressively to the commitment issue. Because without committed peak opposition, how can we truly judge that pressure? I submit that the level of non-commitment shown by two of the league's most successful coaches, Steezy and Easy, is far more damning to the narrative of Bam's singular greatness than any structural flawed Trill might have.
Hold on. Are you genuinely suggesting that time spent and geographical location are greater metrics than strategic genius and operational stability?
No, I'm suggesting that Bam's victory margin is artificially inflated by the lack of full engagement. When we look at Coach Easy's reported preference for recruiting over winning and the subsequent comparison to Lane Kiffin, that suggests a significant lack of focus on the ultimate goal of winning year 3 games. It implies a coach who views the current season as, a means to an end. It's hard to call Bam unbeatable when one of his chief rivals is essentially managing a playoff run while trying to buy cheap rugs in Istanbul, and another is openly quitting on games. That context isn't just commentary, it speaks to the fundamental lack of serious top-to-bottom opposition he faced.
I think that completely misses the point of what high-level coaching entails. Bam's consistent presence and ruthless focus is part of his superiority. If Steezy is coaching from Turkey, dealing with who knows what kind of internet issues, and Easy is openly punting on games, that shows a catastrophic failure in their organizational approach and professionalism. Great coaches aren't just strategists. They are masters of culture, commitment, and long-term focus. Bam's ability to maintain that professional stranglehold year after year, regardless of the temptations or distractions facing others, is precisely the distinction that makes him the greatest. Why should we reward Steezy or Easy for having the potential to be great, only to see them seduced by what the lifestyle offers them, as the postmortem suggests? Bam's genius is in building a system where distractions are irrelevant. Consistency is paramount, and Bam is the only one displaying it.
But that muddies the waters. You're arguing he's the best CEO, not necessarily the best strategic mind. And while that stability is crucial, it's also easier to maintain stability when you are winning, which leads us directly to the question of sustainability. If Bam is truly the greatest, his system has to be immune to the brutal roster turnover that plagues everyone else.
Absolutely. And Bam's status is validated by comparison to coaches whose success appears inherently fragile. Look at Coach Fun at Kentucky. A breakthrough 10-2 season is commendable, but he immediately lost his transcendent player, Chris Johnson Jr. This raises immediate critical questions about whether the offense can evolve or if that success was just player dependent. The material notes that Coach Meyer at Miami also enjoyed his best season, but now he faces a blank canvas after Bryce Underwood heads to the NFL. The question for Meyer is critical. Is he ready to take the leap into true contention, or is he the Black Jeff Fisher capable of leading a stable, competent program that just hits a ceiling once the generational talent leaves? Bam, by contrast, seems insulated from singular player losses. The system endures.
We have to apply that same high scrutiny equally, though, or the comparison is intellectually dishonest. We saw similar volatility with Coach Willie at Florida, right? His return to relevance was a great story, but was it a sustainable philosophical shift or just a fortunate run? And more acutely, look at Darryl in Louisville. The material suggests he might be a one-trick, one-player pony after only managing to find a heartbeat in November. The deeper context on Darryl is even more concerning. Is chess or his relationship taking priority over the league? Is this a possible Bill Belichick situation where his heart isn't fully in it anymore? If we question the heart and commitment of all these other coaches, we're basically saying the league is defined by fragility.
And my argument is that Bam is the exception to that fragility. He didn't just win once. He replicated the success 2 years running. He has already proven his system can withstand the pressure and the turnover inherent in the cycle.
But that brings us directly to the challengers of tomorrow, and whether Bam's dominance was simply a 2-year window before the competition truly caught up. The immediate impact of the new coaches, Sino at FSU and Poe at Washington, is highly instructive. They took over established programs and kept them in the conversation all year. The media has taken note of their stability.
Okay, but keeping a team in the conversation is not the same as hoisting the trophy.
But their immediate success suggests that the established order, which Bam seemingly controlled,
might be shallower than it appears. They manage inherited talent effectively, sustaining momentum without skipping a beat. If they continue this trend and execute well in year 2 recruiting, the debate fundamentally shifts. It could prove that the barrier to entry at the highest level isn't some strategic genius only BAM possesses, but rather consistent, high-level competency that can be readily achieved by new, focused blood.
Their success is noted, I'll give you that, but it doesn't challenge BAM's fundamental achievement. They still face the daunting challenge of sustained success, of recruiting required to truly compete for that title. They achieved competence with inherited talent. BAM achieved undisputed victory with his program, and then did it again. Until someone knocks him out, context is just commentary on the field he conquered. They may have had a successful first year, but they haven't done anything to make me feel confident for year 2 against a true heavyweight. BAM is the heavyweight champion. They are still in the preliminary rounds.
I just disagree fundamentally. The quality and commitment of the opposition define the accomplishment. If the 2-time champion benefits from having rivals who are coaching via video call from vacation spots or who are intentionally throwing games to focus on the next cycle, then BAM's championships are won against a field that is structurally distracted. You cannot ignore that fundamental context when you assign the title of greatest ever.
Look, at the end of the day, I would submit that BAM's sustained, ruthless focus is the reason he is the greatest. His commitment has elevated him above the entire field, transforming him from a great strategist into a great institution builder. The subjective failings of his rivals do not detract from the objective, measurable fact of his 2 titles, and his status as the league's only champion in this entire cycle. He is the league standard, period.
And I will maintain that while BAM holds the hardware, the title of best ever is premature. The structural context, including the Trill analogy of repeated failure, the easy and steezy commitment lapses, and the looming threat of the focused rookies, it requires that we hold that label in reserve. Year 4, which the postmortem itself says is shaping up to be the best yet, will truly test whether BAM is peerless or merely the current beneficiary of a league that is finally finding its focus.
Either way, the material provides critical data points for analyzing coaching effectiveness in the CFL, forcing us all to weigh absolute results against contextual performance, commitment levels, and the sustainability of excellence.
It leaves the listener with a fascinating puzzle. Is the best coach the one who wins when everyone else is trying, or is he the one who is simply most consistent when others fall prey to distraction? There is certainly much more to explore in the material ahead of year 4.
Thanks for listening.